If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the Kulturecast. I am Chris Stachiw, and I am joined by the immensely talented, always entertaining Jess Byard.
Hello.
Hi there. How are you?
I am well. I am running on minimal sleep and lots of driving, but I'm good.
Yes, I too am running on minimal sleep. Isn't it great? Mm-hmm. And how?
Podcasting.
So, we are going to be kicking off Patricia Arquette August on this episode of the Kulturecast with a look at a film that I hadn't seen before. I know you hadn't seen before. Honestly, I feel like it kind of gets forgotten in Scorsese's filmography. We're going to be talking about his 1999 film, Bringing Out the Dead.
6 too young is here, baby. And I'm going to take care of you.
Thursday started out with a bang. Heat, humidity, moonlight, all the elements in place for a long weekend. I was good at my job. There were periods when my hands moved with the speed and skill beyond me.
How long have you been doing this?
5 years.
Wow, you must have seen some things, huh?
But in the last year, I'd started to lose that control. I've been seeing the ghosts.
You ever notice people who see things are always crazy? Mm-hmm.
I just needed a few slow nights, followed by a couple of days off.
There's a double shooting, 41st and 8th.
What happened to chest pain, difficulty breathing, fractured hands?
Don't even slow down, just keep on moving.
Nobody loves me, Chris.
You have the power, Jesus, to spare this worthless man. Rise up! I'll be begging!
Damn, you guys are good.
I'm on my way out. Anytime now.
Nobody gets fired, son. Look at me.
You swore that you'd fire me if I came in late again. You swore.
I'll fire you tomorrow.
Old man's a bus driver, mom a nurse. Sort of born to it, I guess.
Rule number 1, don't get involved with patients' daughters, you understand?
Our mission, to save lives. Blast off!
Help others and you help yourself. That was my motto. I understood how crazy it was to think this way. Then something good will happen. Everything just glows.
Here's to the greatest job in the world.
Frank! Are you okay?
Never felt better in my life. How are you?
I'm good. Good.
So, like I mentioned, the film is directed by Martin Scorsese. It is based off of the novel by Joe Connelly with the screenplay by Paul Schrader. Stars the always entertaining Patricia Arquette, Nicolas Cage, who I have my reservations about. John Goodman's in it. Ving Rhames is in it. Tom Sizemore is looking mad. Fucking coked out of his mind.
Fucking insane in this movie. I mean, he's insane anyway, but he's insane in this movie.
Yeah, this is the same person who made a sex tape at one point in his life. Yeah. So, it is what it is. And it also stars, and I don't know if you realize this, but did you realize who is playing Noel in this film?
I couldn't really tell.
Fucking Anthony, the singer.
Okay, that's who I thought, because I saw the name in the credits, and I was like, where is he in this movie? And I thought that was him, but
honestly, I am shocked. I'm #shook.
Yeah, he's like the whole through line of this movie, and it's just, it's strange.
So, this is a weird movie. It does star Patricia Arquette. I think it doesn't star her as much as I would have hoped, but I'd never seen this film. I had wanted to see it for a very long time. The film follows Nicolas Cage as an ambulance kind of, ambulance paramedic, and he is trying to keep his sanity over 3 nights in New York City, where he is haunted by the ghosts of the people he could not save, along with having to deal with Patricia Arquette and her father, who is the initial call that he makes in the film. So I'm curious, Jess, what did you think of Bringing Out the Dead?
I like exploring the Martin Scorsese B-side movies, because I always think they're such a treat. I like this movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I can definitely see why it wasn't as well received as other movies of his. And I can get why people don't like it. It is sort of, it follows that neo-noir style of the whole movie's Nicolas Cage. He's on these 3 nights, and the whole movie is him. There's narration basically throughout the entire thing of Nicolas Cage pretty much just pontificating on the scummy streets of New York and how shitty he feels about his job, because as a paramedic in the last, several days or whatever, he's been pretty much on this horrible streak of everybody that they come across dies, so he's not saving anybody, and he's just spiraling out of control. And this movie works in a really weird reality that I don't really understand. So it has this sort of neo-noir / psychedelic. It's a sort of weird hodgepodge, because there's also some pretty creepy actual moments, and there's also a lot of hilarious moments. I was laughing my ass off for a good portion of this movie. So, I enjoyed it. I like when Martin Scorsese's like, yeah, you know what? Let's just do whatever this time. I do gangster movies and they're great, but let's do my awesome soundtrack, but with a whole bunch of random shit instead.
So, like you mentioned with this whole kind of Martin Scorsese B-sides, because look, everybody knows Gangs of New York. Everybody knows The Departed, the film he won the Oscar for, though it should have been Goodfellas, but that's a conversation for another day. Everybody knows Shutter Island, unfortunately. Everybody knows The Wolf of Wall Street. But fewer people know films like King of Comedy or After Hours, which I think is just a fantastic film. A lot of people like to forget.
I really like After Hours.
Yeah, After Hours is great. A lot of people like to forget that he directed The Last Temptation of Christ. Or even a film like The Color of Money. And so with a film like Bringing Out the Dead, it falls into that not Goodfellas, not Casino camp of stuff. And look,
not Taxi Driver.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I honestly really don't like a lot of Scorsese's more recent works. Wolf of Wall Street I find to be just beyond obnoxious. His work with Leonardo DiCaprio is... I don't like Leonardo DiCaprio anyways. So
bold movie statements.
It doesn't... that's my opinion and I'm entitled to it. But So I don't really like any of his recent stuff, which leans very heavily on Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, I want to see like 4 or 5 films now with Leo, which is fine. I mean, again, if you find him to be your more recent kind of take on De Niro, be my guest. I don't think that DiCaprio and De Niro need to be mentioned in the conversation. But again, one of them did not make Dirty Grandpa, so what do I know?
I don't know. I don't liken DiCaprio to De Niro at all.
But Scorsese treats him the same way.
I suppose
he centers entire patches of his career around 1 or 2 actors.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, so does one of your other favorite directors.
Which one? David Lynch?
No, the Quentin Tarantino, who's one of his regular DPs, is the DP on this movie. Richard Robinson, I think.
Yeah.
Who was the DP on Kill Bill and also on The Aviator, another Scorsese movie. So.
Oh, so that was a sarcastic favorite director.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I do not like Quentin Tarantino. I do not like him, Sam. I am. But. The film is an interesting Scorsese film because it is almost unscorsese. It's as unscorsese as it is Scorsese. There's a lot of stuff going on in this film that is very unscorsese that goes into like you mentioned, kind of supernatural, and you've got this. And there's a little bit. I can see a little bit of Shutter Island in this film, which again, a film I really don't like because the twist in that film is telegraphed from minute 1.
Absolutely.
But there are a few films that I have seen that I really appreciate the performance of Nick Cage. This is one of them. But that's, again, he's doing a riff on a character that he's done a million times now. Which
but is not by that point, though.
Right. Well, Leaving Las Vegas, right? I mean, Leaving Las Vegas came out before this.
But I think this was kind of at right around peak, of Nicolas Cage entering what we know him as now.
Have we reached... I'm not sure we've reached peak Nicolas Cage.
I don't think we've reached peak. I mean, I think we just entered... I think that the late 90s, this movie came out in 99. I think the late 90s were a big time for Nicolas Cage, and then I think he kind of went away for 5-10 years. And now he's coming back in a big way and just being more cagey and more going after these different roles like in Mandy, and which this movie has a lot of psychedelic qualities like Mandy that I appreciate, and it's interesting to see Scorsese do something like that, especially then put at his backdrop with his fantastic music choices as always. But
you won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue, heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
But I don't know.
Scorsese was doing the music thing before Tarantino ever was.
Well, yeah. But I mean, to be fair, he has been around longer.
But people don't, I mean, like yourself, I mean, you appreciate film as much as I do, and even more so working in the industry. So you understand the whole, music, the music choices really do make or break some of these scenes. And Tarantino really cops from Scorsese when it comes to picking quality songs that stick with you. I mean, I'm not sure if you've seen Goodfellas, you cannot think about the piano outro to Layla other than as the scene where everybody is found dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, look, Nicolas Cage. So I'm just going to read this off: 1000, The Croods 2, Grand Isle, Jiu-Jitsu, Prisoners of the Ghostland, Color Out of Space, Kill Chain, Primal, Running with the Devil, and A Score to Settle. All are coming out in the next year, and those are all films that he's in. The thing about Nicolas Cage is I don't think he turns down anything.
No, because he can't, because he's constantly broke.
Well, yeah, I mean that that's kind of
it's like the Johnny Depp modeled his career basically after Nicolas Cage, and that's what happened. And now they're both broke. Now, Nicolas Cage is doing better, so I'm assuming Johnny Depp will probably have his, come back around stride. But
Nicolas Cage isn't beating the shit out of people either.
No.
That we know of.
But, I mean, yeah, at this point, especially, you can just tell, like, Nicolas Cage was probably at height, drug habit, and he bought all kinds of real estate and all kinds of stuff that, he constantly had to be doing. He had to constantly be working, or else he would have been, like, in massive amounts of debt.
Yeah. But, I mean, again, I'm not the biggest fan of Nick Cage. I like him in this, though. I think he plays that role perfectly. But, the kind of the person that we do, we should focus a little, obviously, more on than anything else is Patricia Arquette. Now, like I mentioned, she's not in this as much as I was expecting her to be.
No, and she plays a sort of strange role for, like, this movie being so much of a neo-noir, with Nicolas Cage being haunted by a woman in his past. And Patricia Arquette sort of plays, I don't know, maybe like a confidant or a guiding light for him that's sort of just keeping him barely afloat. I mean, he's like at the edge of his, psyche by the end of this movie, pretty much. But she's the constant go-to for him. She's constantly hanging around because at the beginning of the film, her dad has like a heart attack and is in a coma for a grand majority of the movie. And so she's constantly around the hospital. I think it's weird that she's just hanging around the paramedics, like by the ambulances. At one point, she's like, this place is such a bummer. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you're hanging out at the ER with the paramedics. Of course it's a bummer.
And they seemingly are at like the worst ER, like in all of New York.
Yeah, I guess it's just the worst place to possibly go. It's like if you are in any need of help,
and it's like in the middle of. So it's in this film is taking place in the middle of the heroin epidemic in this universe, at least that the film exists in. Again, I don't remember much about 1999 in regards to the drugs. I mean, I know that in obviously. Yeah, so was I. So I don't know. I mean, I know that crack was a big thing in the 80s. So I guess it would make sense that heroin was kind of the burgeoning drug of the 90s. But this whole film takes place in a kind of a city torn apart by heroin use. And everyone is kind of feeling the effects of it, from the paramedics who are having to deal with people ODing to the paramedics doing drugs themselves.
Right. Which for me, I don't know how it is where you live. I mean, I know the opioid crisis is terrible everywhere currently. In Akron and in Ohio in particular, it's really bad. I hear sirens all day, every day, pretty much. And I would say that probably at least 60% of them are going, 60 to 70% of them, if not more, are going to OD to find, just to pick up people who are ODing. And so for this movie to be set, because I think it is supposed to be set in the near future. At the beginning, it says this movie is set in New York, or in 1999 in New York City. So I guess it's not the near future. It's present time. So it's still kind of it's interesting because it's kind of topical in a way again, and where it's kind of coming around 20 years later. I mean, 1999 to 2019, and we're kind of turned right back around into another. It's not quite. It's still heroin, but it's more pills and fentanyl and everything like that now. But still, it's interesting how we've cycled back into it. And I think this movie shows that, where it's just a constant. This movie takes place over several nights, and every night is pretty much the same cycle for Nicolas Cage, where he's going out and he's seeing these terrible things happen, one thing after another, and he just hits this cycle of every time he wants to close his eyes or try and get something to eat or a cup of coffee, just boom, another depressing, awful thing is happening.
And like you said, a depressing, awful thing is happening. This film is not for the faint of heart. There is a lot. It is a very bleak film.
It is, but I also kind of found it hilarious.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's definitely parts of it that are comedic, that are kind of asking for a laugh, and and deservedly so. And there are some great performances as well. I mean, you have Tom Sizemore Tom Sizemore doing the Tom Sizemore thing, I would say. I mean, he's not exactly known for having, dialed-in performances. He is very much completely unhinged when it comes to his acting style, and boy, he just goes for it in this film.
Well, and I mean, this movie is filled with actors in that same style of whether or not they're kind of just, they play a character and they stick to it and people latch onto it, like people like Tom Sizemore or Nicolas Cage. Or you just have these just super outrageous, flamboyant performances like you get from Ving Rhames, he's fucking hilarious. And at one point, so I don't know, do you really understand the reality of this world? Because at one point, Ving Rhames totally just floors the ambulance and flips it. And then nothing happens. And Nicolas Cage, they both just get out, and then boom, he's back at the hospital getting more, whatever, another ambulance, I guess. But yeah, so I was kind of confused as to what this reality was. And I know, obviously, there's a lot of, he starts to hallucinate as the movie progresses. He's sleep deprived. He's starting to crack up. He wants his boss to fire him, but his boss won't fire him, but he can't quit for whatever reason, and he's just trapped in this loop, and it's the worst. It's basically just the worst Groundhog Day nightmare over and over and over again, stretched out over several nights. Well, and I think Nick Cage does a really good job with balancing that caricature of himself, but also still having some, connective moments with that character where he is really having a terrible time. Like, this is really destroying him. And while there are really hilarious parts, and he starts to, when he is partnered with Tom Sizemore towards the end of the movie, starts to kind of take on that same persona, but he still can't fully commit. Like, he can't get out of his head long enough. Like, everybody else, John Goodman, his first partner, Ving Rhames, and Tom Sizemore, they've all kind of just given up or given in or been sucked in to the bleak shittiness of the world, and they're all jaded. And nobody's affected by anything. And Nick Cage's character is not, even though he's been at it for like 5 years. He still has this horrible, he can't, get out of his head about it as much as he tries. And I like that this movie focuses on something like a paramedic instead of, say, like a cop or a firefighter, because we've seen that. We see those all the time, but you don't think about paramedics or jobs like that where it's like, oh yeah, those are the people who save people. Yeah, it's great. It is great, except that they respond to so many calls day after day after day that statistically a large majority of those calls are not going to end well. And they have, and just, I don't have the ability to do that job. And you don't see movies really depicting that life or that, and obviously this is sort of exaggerated and goes on in a different direction, but I still like that perspective. I thought it was really interesting. An interesting direction for him to go.
Well, and like you said, it is very much a weird kind of caricature, but at the same time not. And I think that, like you said, I think that is what works in the film, is that it does kind of straddle the line between the two, and it never really commits to one or the other. It kind of tries to incorporate the two tones into each scene, which is definitely not something I'm used to when it comes to Scorsese either.
No, he's usually pretty cohesive in that, and this movie does have, as much as I did enjoy it and have fun with it, it does really drag in parts, and it does kind of feel like he doesn't know where he's really going with it, or what type of movie he wants to be doing, because honestly, I like noir film, I like neo-noir film, but honestly, all of the narration could go for me in this movie. I'm interested in what's happening, like what they're showing me. I want to know about that. I don't need the endless just pontification from Nicolas Cage about how terrible he feels about everything. Like, that's apparent. I don't need to be told it as well. I think it's redundant, and it slows everything to a grinding halt. There's several scenes in this movie that I think could have been, like, this movie doesn't need to be 2 hours. I think if it was cut to about an hour 45, I think it could have been really tight. but maybe hour 50, I don't know, but it just feels a tad too long, and especially for the ending. I mean, it doesn't really give you a payoff in any way, and honestly, I don't really know what kind of payoff we would be looking for with this kind of movie, because it's really more just you're in it for a ride.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
With this character, and you're following him, and you're following Patricia Arquette, and what she's going through with her dad on the other side, and how everybody just sort of keeps crossing paths in these depressing stories and trying to find solace in each other, even if it's just a little bit. And even if it's, I mean, there's parts where Tom Sizemore's just beating the shit out of the ambulance with a baseball bat. And nobody's doing anything, so I don't know.
And let's also not forget another thing about this film that, again, we mentioned after Hours. That's what this honestly reminds me the most of is like a really weird version of After Hours, because After Hours is weird in its own right. But this reminds me a lot of that because it does kind of have that disjointed narrative feel to it that seems almost, because you mentioned it drags, it almost feels just unfocused, and
it does,
and I think plotting.
I think that's part of it is intentional, of like the disconnectedness, and there's a lot of interesting editing choices, a lot of like very 90s editing choices, I want to say, where everything's like sped up and almost music video like. There's a couple really beautiful shots that I thought came out of this, just of them driving and with the city on either side of them a couple times. So I think some of that disconnectedness is sort of intentional with the characters, and how some of them are entirely disconnected and disassociated from what they're doing. And Nicolas Cage is just becoming more disconnected from himself. But I don't think that necessarily helps the movie along. I think that you're right. I think that it does kind of hinder it a bit. I do like, some of the speed up stuff, but I think that I think that they use that technique a little bit too much. I think that it could have been, a few of those could have just not been that style, but it was popular then. And
well, let's not also forget, weird coincidence, Rosanna Arquette is in After Hours, and she is related to, she's like the half-sister of Patricia Arquette, I believe.
I think so, yes.
So, I mean, look, ultimately, when you have a film like this, which is, it's 2 hours long, it doesn't need to be 2 hours long. It probably only needed to be hour 45, hour and a half, if that. It does kind of plod and do some things that are just kind of, I wouldn't say indulgent, but unnecessary. And then you have things like Patricia Arquette's character, which I don't feel like gets enough screen time, because she is one of the more interesting aspects of the film, and she essentially pops up.
Yeah. At the very beginning of the film, she's there the whole time, and I agree that there's just, like, she's for some reason on the periphery, and I don't really know what that's supposed to be. Like, is she supposed to be some kind of, like, manic pixie dream girl, where she's coming in and being sort of this like shining, bleak light for Nicolas Cage's sad life, where she's keeping him alive and keeping him going, even if it's only in her sad way, because she's there because her father is basically dying.
Well, it would seem that way, right?
Yeah, and then there's the ending.
Yeah, okay, so How did you perceive the ending?
I don't really... I mean, to be honest, listeners, I just finished watching this movie right before we did this podcast, so I haven't had time to completely reflect, but I don't know that if I had, more time, I would have a very distinctive answer. Basically, spoilers, if you haven't watched the movie, turn the podcast off now and then come back. But Nicolas Cage basically goes into the hospital finally for one last time and pulls a Dennis Hopper and takes this breathing apparatus from this dying old man, Patricia Arquette's father, huffs it for a while this old man sort of like slips away, and then, basically he dies, and he assisted suicides him, I guess.
Well, he makes it so that the nurses don't come in as he's dying.
Right, exactly. And now, did I miss it, or did Patricia Arquette ask him to do this?
No.
Or does he take it upon himself to do this?
I thought he took it upon himself because he heard the father, talking to him.
Okay, that's what I thought, too.
Which
was
that
earlier on.
Weird?
Yeah, they don't really... The supernatural aspects of this movie are confusing, or the, psychic aspects of this movie are confusing. Nicolas Cage at one point starts to hear the old man when they're bringing him back from having, an episode, and the old man basically saying, no, don't let him do this. I want to, I'm tired of being this way. Let me die. I'm assuming that that's a hallucination. I think that is just that's Nicolas Cage kind of breaking, further in the movie, and I think that he takes that to heart and takes this upon himself, and then he just goes to her house and they then sleeps there. That's really just it. He goes to her house and they lay in bed with the sun getting brighter and brighter and brighter and showing on him, and he finally is sleeping. So I guess the interpretation is, if you want to take it, the most obvious one is that he's finally at peace or at rest, but I don't specifically understand why. I don't know what the bridge was. I don't know how, if he just cracked and then he let this man die and now he can be suddenly at peace. I don't know. I think I need to see this movie a couple more times to really reflect on that positioning, but I don't know. What was your take?
I'm sure that the name Mary is not a coincidence. I'm sure that there is a ton of religious imagery that I probably missed in the film. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the poster for the film, the cross, the red cross, also, it is a shortened, cross, like a religious cross. So I'm sure that there's maybe a lot of religious imagery that I missed, a lot of religious kind of allegories that I missed. I don't know how to really interpret the ending. I would like to think it's, and then he rested because, he finally found someone who could help him absolve
take on a
himself.
Burden, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I guess, sure.
It's just like two broken people coming together. Yeah, I mean...
But it's like, for this film, that's such a cheap and weird ending.
So we have... This movie is based on a book, which I have not read. So if anybody has read this book, please let us know. What does it actually fill in any details? Is it anything like the book at all? And then we also have Paul Schrader. So the religious aspects, I definitely, they're there. And again, I'm not a super religious person, and I would definitely need to go back through this movie. There were things that I picked up on, but if I really wanted to understand and study and try and pick those things out, I would need to go back and watch it more. But I don't know if that's just Paul Schrader's and Martin Scorsese's influence on the novel, or if it's more so the novel. I'm not sure, and that would be interesting. Do Martin Scorsese and Paul Schrader really talk about this movie that much? I haven't, with as many people as in this movie and with the names attached to it like Paul Schrader, it's strange that this movie doesn't have more of a following, especially now in Nick Cage Renaissance, and it's weird to me that Scream Factory or Arrow or somebody hasn't put out some collector's edition of this with 25 minutes of cut footage.
That is the thing I was curious about, like you said, because look, most of Paul Schrader's scripts are about these like broken, self-destructive characters that have to figure out a way to redeem themselves. And I don't know why this film... I mean, like, if you showed the poster of this film to people or explained this movie to people, they wouldn't tell you that Scorsese directed it.
No.
I mean, that's the weird thing about this movie is, again, like I said at the top of the podcast, like, it is Scorsese. It is so un-Scorsese, but at the same time, it is very Scorsese.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Paul Schrader wrote, like, Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, so it is very Scorsese. I mean, they work together on those big, iconic films that everybody knows. And everybody, I mean, Scorsese's made a name in the gangster film world, and that's what, you know, most people would know him for. But, again, I do enjoy these just random when Scorsese's like, nah, I don't want to do that. Let's do something different.
And, you know, the thing is, of those films that I have seen that are like this, I like this one a lot, but I still appreciate After Hours more because I think After Hours' story...
It's a more cohesive story, I think. It's
Well, and also for me, it taps into some things that are more personal than this. I mean, I've never struggled with addiction. I've never struggled with kind of loss of faith or a lot of the things that Nicolas Cage's character struggles with in the film. So that's another part of it.
I would agree. I would think, I do think that probably After Hours is, well, it does have those still kind of strange reality moments and different, it is easier to relate on just a personal level because, yeah, this movie is a much more extreme. I mean, it's much more Taxi Driver. Like there's a lot of Taxi Driver in this movie, I think, where it's, obviously you're driving through the scummy streets of dingy New York, except this time you have an ambulance and not a taxi. And you're just driving through the dregs of society. And it's this man who's just slowly losing his sense of identity, whereas in Taxi Driver, he's slowly gaining his sense of identity, whether that's obviously not a good thing or not. But I enjoy seeing that parallel. And I mean, this movie obviously came out way later than Taxi Driver, but it's still nice to, I mean, Scorsese's still Scorsese, and it's always there. Even in his new movies and his movie, you know, his deep cut movies, it all is there.
And I would say that
you won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue, heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
This is a pretty deep cut movie.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm surprised that I haven't heard more about this movie. I hadn't really heard about this movie at all, and I'd never seen it. And it surprises me because it seems like it would be the perfect thing that people right now would latch onto with... I mean, fucking have street trash and the mutilator and ridiculous shit on these, like... 4K Blu-rays, and I don't know, I think that I just feel like there should be some kind of special edition of this. If there is, somebody prove me wrong and send it to me on Twitter and I'll fucking buy it. But
yeah, it seems like maybe I feel like with this, and look, it was pretty well received when it came out critically. I feel like a lot of people watch this movie and honestly don't know what to think of it and kind of don't know how to really
interpret it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those films that, like, it's not like Taxi Driver. It is a film that is so, that is so kind of weird in a way that a lot of other Scorsese films aren't.
It sort of feels, I mean, it came out in the same year as Fight Club, and it has that kind of feel to it. It's just, it feels very 90s, which is a weird thing for Scorsese, I think. That's, and Paul Schrader, for that matter, that they created
feel
a movie.
Pretty timeless.
Yeah, and this one feels very, and like with the editing choices, with the music choices, I mean, R.E.M. and Sarah McLachlan, and I mean, it is 90s. I mean, Patricia Arquette, too, she's a big star of the 90s. I mean, Nick Cage, obviously, but it's just, yeah, it feels very trapped in that world, and that is a strange translation, I think, for those two people. But I like it. I like what they did with it. And
this is unfortunately the only time Scorsese ever worked with Patricia Arquette.
Yeah, that is a shame, and it's strange. Like, it strikes me interesting that they didn't do or haven't done anything else since.
Yeah, because she is great in everything I've ever seen her in. She's great in this, but she really is kind of, in the second half of the movie, she is sidelined. The first half of the movie, she's pretty much ever present, but in the second half of the film, there's the overdosing scene in Cliff Curtis's kind of drug den, and then she's kind of gone for a while. And you have the weird Tom Sizemore coked out end of the film, which, it's a brutal ending to the film with his character. His character is just the biggest piece of shit.
He's awful.
Yeah. Beating up junkies on the streets. Even if the junkie deserved it, I'm not sure that he deserved to have the shit beat out of him.
No, and there is this other through line of Mark Anthony's character, who Tom Sizemore racistly calls Pedro all the time, he keeps ending up at the hospital, but then every time they bring him back to the hospital, he escapes, and they're paramedics, not cops, so they're not going after him. And the whole time he's just thirsty all the time. His thing is that he's constantly thirsty, and he has this death wish that he wants to die. And there's one point where Nicolas Cage, toward the beginning of the movie, is trying to keep him in the ambulance, and the way he's doing it is like threatening, I swear to God, I won't kill you if you don't shut up. It's a weird, interesting thing, and I like that it adds a little bit of another layer to Nicolas Cage's character, where you see that sort of soft, a softer, more. He's like, I'm just trying to calm these people down, and I want them to be okay, and I want to get through the night. So we see this guy all throughout the movie, interacting with various characters throughout the movie, and I don't know, I don't really know entirely how to interpret him either. But
I'm sure it's a religious thing.
Yeah, I can definitely see that creeping through. I am going to be reading more about this movie, I think, after this, because there's a lot of it in there that there's just a few things here and there that I'd like to see what other people are saying about them. Because, now that I really think about it, there's a lot of little pieces in this movie that they all interact, they all connect, but I'm not sure exactly on what level.
Well, let's not forget the craziest thing of all. Patricia Arquette was married to who during the filming of this film? Nicolas Cage.
Oh, yeah.
So that, again, there's some of that at work too. So I think this is a film, like you said, there's a lot of firsts and lasts of this movie. This is the last film that was ever released on Laserdisc.
Wow, really? I didn't know that.
This is the only Scorsese film of the 90s that did not get an Oscar nomination. So there's a lot of weird things about this movie, weird firsts or onlys or lasts that again, you would, like you mentioned, you would think
it would be, it's a lost little gem of a movie, and I do think that people should check it out, especially now. I think that it is pretty relevant now.
Agreed.
Still, 20 years later, we're still dealing with the same bullshit, and it's from this perspective. You don't see it from this perspective ever.
We're in the height of the opioid crisis in this country.
Yeah. And nobody's making movies about paramedics who are dealing with it. And sure, this isn't, a movie that's set in the hard stone reality of paramedic life. It does have goofiness to it, and it does have psychedelia to it, but deep on a base level, it is these people are out there working these shitty hours at 3 fucking o'clock in the morning. They're responding to suicide calls and ODs, and that's a life that I can't even fathom. So I would say that this would definitely be a recommend. Check it out. It's a Scorsese movie too, so how bad can it be, right? Shutter Island.
Wow. Again, I think you're right. I need to I really want to bone up on the Christ stuff about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's some sort of modern Jesus allegory going on, which, again, like you said, begs to be rewatched in 2019.
Right, exactly.
So, anything else you want to talk about?
No, I don't. Well, I guess we should mention, if anything, watch this movie to see Cliff Curtis impaled on the
fence.
It's the most ridiculous thing about the movie. Actually, you know what? The most ridiculous thing about the movie is that Nicolas Cage keeps offering people ambulance rides home, and I'm like, that's the most expensive shit ever.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in reality. In any reality
because
ever
the second you get on an ambulance, you are being charged. So there's no just driving you home.
Come on, I'll drive you home. No, you won't.
No, thanks. I'll walk for free. But no, that's it.
So what would you give the film out of 5?
You know, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think that has a lot of rewatchability for me. I think that it was a good surprise. It was a Scorsese movie I hadn't seen. And it was different. I think that it's a very specific little blip in filmmaking, and it's a specific kind of style, and it's its own little thing, and I like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 as well. Like you said, it's an interesting note in Scorsese's filmography that doesn't really get talked about enough, as opposed to, you know, films like every other film that Scorsese has made. Right. Be it Gangs of New York or the gangster films, however you want to.
Goodfellas, all of it.
Casino, Goodfellas, and the upcoming nightmare that is the good. What is it? What was the Uncanny Valley fellas or whatever the fuck it's going to be called?
The Irishman or something like that.
But it looks horrifying.
It's going to be interesting.
The CGI looks bad. I mean, the movie will probably be great, but the anti-aging CGI does not look particularly great.
It's always unsettling.
So let's take a break and we'll play a preview for the next Kulturecast.
From Hollywood Pictures, Havana's late husband left a fortune in cash.
Where did you hide it?
But there's one small catch.
I'm only 12 years old.
Tradition says she has to marry his kid brother.
You guys have been out in the sun for too long.
Now, if she wants the money,
I do.
She'll have to earn it.
You have to mow the lawn and feed the flower bed. I'm your husband!
Patricia Arquette.
It's not happening!
Holy Matrimony.
Don't think our marriage is working.
Rated PG-13.
That's right. On the next Kulturecast, we're going to be taking a look at another Patricia Arquette film that more than likely should not exist based on just the trailer alone. We're going to be talking about the 90s comedy classic, Holy Matrimony, where Patricia Arquette marries an 11-year-old Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yes, that's a thing. I don't know why, but we'll find out next week when we are joined by the projection booth's Mike White to talk about Holy Matrimony. Until then, where can people find you, Jess?
You can find me on Twitter at writer Jess Byard. That's about it as far as social media goes. And then you can also find me on other episodes of this very podcast and podcasts like The Projection Booth and our other podcast, The One Season Show,
where we talk about shows that only lasted one season.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking.
It's a very limited time commitment.
Yeah, something like that.
For the listener.
For the listener, yeah. You can find me on this podcast. You can find me on a little podcast called The Kolchak Tapes, where I talk about Kolchak the Night Stalker. If you want to hear me talk some more about TV shows other than the one-season show, I do a podcast on Tales from the Crypt called Chronicles from the Crypt, and I do a podcast on Twilight Zone 1985 called Dreams for Sale. You can find links over to iTunes where you can rate and review the show in the description below. Every little bit helps in regards to reviews and thumbs up or thumbs down or star ratings. You know, if you want to, great. If not, hey, we get it. All good. Big thanks as always to _91 for the music for the Kulturecast, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.